Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty interesting, exhibit design. You guys sent over this article about Atom Expo stand.
Yeah,
And gotta say, way more captivating than I thought it would be. We're not just talking putting up a booth. This is about crafting a whole experience.
exactly. It's easy to think, oh, it's just about how it looks, but it's really this fascinating mix of marketing, psychology, you could even say a bit of architecture gets in there.
hmm
This Atom Expo stand piece, it's like a perfect example to pick apart.
Yeah, for sure. So they kick things off talking about creative designer expertise, and right away it jumps out their team comes from all these different backgrounds, like graphic design, interior design, industrial design, the whole gamut. Is this multidisciplinary approach common?
It's becoming more and more essential, I'd say. Each area design, it's like they bring a different set of tools to the table, right?
Right?
So graphic designers, they're the masters of visual communication. Interior designers, they're all about flow, how people move through space. Industrial designers, they're laser focused on functionality, how usable something is. You bring those skill sets together, you get a way richer, more thought out design overall.
So it's not just that a booth looks good. It's designed to like pull you in without you even realizing it, get you interacting. That's kind of wild.
It really is.
The article also mentions they're really big on understanding a brand's story, their goals, before any designing happens. Why so important in this world of booths and exhibits?
Because a truly good exhibit booth, it's not about just showing products, it's about telling a story.
Ooh, I like
Yeah.
that.
Like, imagine you walk into an exhibit at a museum. The really good ones. They use lighting, how the space is designed, even just what materials they use, all to make you feel a certain way, to draw you into a story. A well-designed booth does that same thing, but for a brand.
It's like setting the stage, but the play is your company's message. That's cool. And they use 3D modeling, simulation software even. Is that more than just a look how fancy we are tactic? What's the real benefit?
It's way more than just a flashy sales tool. Traditionally, you had blueprints, maybe some rough sketches, and clients had to really use their imaginations to picture how it would look in real life. But with 3D modeling, they can actually put on a VR headset, walk through the booth, see how it flows, everything. Clients understand the design better, can give feedback early on, make changes, saves time, saves money in the long run.
So you're basically test driving the booth before it gets built. I dig it. They're also big on sustainable practices, which obviously important overall, but are there specific hurdles or maybe advantages to sustainability in the exhibit design world?
Sustainability is huge right now for sure, but it's not just a trend, especially in this industry. Exhibit design, there's often a ton of waste involved. You build these temporary structures, then they get torn down, and where's it all go?
Right, landfills, probably.
Exactly. So companies like Atom Expo Stand, they're getting ahead of that, using recycled materials, things that can be recycled later, designs that can be reconfigured, used again, even partnering with suppliers who are on the same page with sustainability.
Mm.
It matters to them.
So it's not just a line item on a checklist, it's baked into how they do things. And that probably appeals to clients too, right? Wanting to work with businesses that align with their values.
For sure. It's good PR, but also it attracts better talent.
Hmm.
The best designers, the ones who are passionate, they want to work for companies that are trying to make a difference.
It's like that saying, work for a company that's changing the world, not just making money. Makes sense. Now, this why choose Atom Expo stand section, obviously it's marketing, but it's still interesting to see what they choose to highlight, you know? It's a peek into what clients care about.
100%. Marketing can be surprisingly revealing. They're putting a spotlight on what they think clients value most. What stood out to you?
They talk about creative talent, seamless client experience, but also proven track record. Seems like clients want that assurance that you've got the creativity and the reliability.
Makes sense. They're trusting you with a big chunk of their brand image, plus a lot of money. You got to have a team that gets their vision and can execute flawlessly, on time, and on budget.
Like hiring a wedding planner. You want someone creative to bring your dream wedding to life, but also organized? A good communicator can handle any crisis without freaking out.
Yeah.
Nobody wants a wedding cake disaster.
That's a great analogy. Because in the end, it really is a partnership. You're working together to create something special, something memorable.
And when that partnership clicks, when you get that synergy, magic happens. Right?
Exactly. And that's the difference between a decent exhibit booth and a truly great one. That blend of creativity, strategy, and nailing the execution.
It's like they're not just building a booth, they're conducting a whole orchestra. But
Yeah.
instead of instruments, it's design elements. And the music, that's the brand experience.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
And speaking of orchestrating experiences, something else interesting, I wanted to circle back to the article mentioned Atom Expo stand using 3D modeling.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Now, we've all seen those flashy VR demos, but how does that actually translate into a better experience for the client, you
Yeah.
know?
Is it more than just a wow, cool factor? Does it actually change how they design in a way that really matters?
Absolutely. Think of it this way. You're the client, right? And you're trying to decide between two different layouts for your booth. In the old days, you'd be stuck looking at these flat plans, maybe some sketches, and you got to really use your imagination to get how the space would feel.
Right, right.
But with the 3D modeling, especially VR,
Mm.
you can actually put on a headset and walk through each option, get a feel for it firsthand. Totally changes the game for how clients understand and make decisions.
So it's like instead of just looking at a map, you're flying over the actual terrain. Way easier to see how big things are, how they all fit together.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the space itself. The good 3D software can simulate lighting, even how crowds might move through, acoustics. So if a client's worried about noise levels in a certain
Mhm.
area, you can figure that out before anything's built.
That's nuts. You're taking out all the guesswork.
Exactly. It's about reducing risks, making sure that what you deliver is exactly what the client pictured.
Love it. Now, switching gears a bit, I was also curious about the whole sustainability angle. Important in general, of course, but are there specific challenges or maybe even unique opportunities when it comes to sustainability within the world of exhibit design?
Great question. And you're right, sustainability is often seen as a nice to have, this bonus thing.
Yeah.
But in this industry, it's becoming mission critical and more complicated too.
How so?
Well, think about it. Trade shows create a ton of waste. Temporary structures, signage, all those handouts, most of it just gets trashed after a few days, right?
Yeah, like fast fashion, but with plywood and laminates.
Exactly. That's where companies like Atom Expo stand are really stepping up. They're building sustainability into everything they do, using recycled or recyclable materials, designs that can be reconfigured and used again, even choosing suppliers who are just as committed to sustainability as they are.
So it's not an afterthought, it's built into the DNA of the company.
100%. And that's not just good PR, it's smart business.
Yeah, because clients are looking for that, right? Partnering with companies that share their values.
Exactly. And it attracts better talent too. The top designers, they want to work for companies that are making a difference.
It's like that saying, work for a company that's changing the world, not just making a profit.
Exactly. And when you've got a team that talented who are also passionate about sustainability, that's when you get really innovative solutions.
Makes sense. So we've talked creative process, the tech they're using, sustainability, but in the end, it all comes back to creating an event that's successful for the client.
Absolutely. And that success relies on truly getting the client what they need, what their goals are for the event, then translating that into a physical space that delivers.
Which brings us back to that why choose Atom Expo stand part of the article. Clearly, they think they've got a good answer, talking up their experience, their client-focused approach.
And those aren't just buzzwords. When it comes to exhibit design, experience is everything. You want a team that's been there, done that, who know the ins and outs, the timelines, where things can go wrong.
It's the difference between a tour guide who's actually from the city versus someone who just memorized a guidebook.
100%. And that's huge with trade shows because things can change so fast.
Oh, I bet.
You need a team that can roll with the punches, solve problems, keep things running smoothly, even when things get crazy.
The last thing you want is some logistical nightmare overshadowing this amazing booth you've created.
Exactly. And that's why that whole seamless client experience is so important. It's about communication, being responsive, building that relationship, built on trust.
It's like when you check into a really good hotel, everything's just taken care of. You don't have to worry about a thing.
Perfect analogy, because that's the feeling you want your clients to have at a trade show, to know they're in good hands,
Mm.
that they can focus on what they're there for.
So it's way more than just designing a pretty booth. It's about creating this whole ecosystem of support around it.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what sets a company like Atom Expo stand apart. It's not just the end result, it's the whole journey, from the first idea to shaking hands at the trade show.
And speaking of journeys, I feel like this deep dive has taken us on one. We've gone from psychology of design to 3D modeling to sustainability, even threw in a couple wedding analogies along the way.
It's been quite a ride,
Hmm.
but that's design for you. It's always evolving, pushing boundaries, finding new ways to surprise us.
Love it. And speaking of pushing boundaries, before we wrap things up here, I want to bring it back to, you listening.
Always good to loop back around.
We've been digging into Atom Expo Stand, how they approach things, but what I think is so cool is how these ideas, they apply to like everything, you know?
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
a sec, think about your own work, your hobbies, whatever you're into. There's always that challenge of how do you make your ideas grab people, get them invested?
Absolutely. Could be pitching a project at work, setting up a booth at a craft fair, even just like decorating your living room to have people over. It's
Yeah.
all about that experience you're creating.
Exactly. And this deep dive, it's given me so many things to think about, even outside of just trade shows. That whole multidisciplinary thing, for example. I'm working on a presentation right now, and I'm realizing I've been so stuck in one mode.
Yeah.
I need to bring in visuals, maybe even some music, make it more dynamic.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, you're already putting these principles to work, and don't underestimate those sensory details like the music you mentioned.
Mhm.
A well-chosen scent, even the texture of materials, those can subtly change how people feel about an experience, how they remember it.
It's like when you walk into a bakery, that smell of fresh bread just hits you. You're like, okay, I'm sold.
Well,
Or a clothing store with that music that makes you feel cool just by being there.
exactly. You're tapping into those subconscious associations, creating an emotional
Mhm.
connection. And the best part is you don't need a huge budget or a fancy design degree to do this. With a little creativity and intention, you can turn any space, any interaction, into something people remember.
So it's about being mindful, really paying attention to those little things that elevate an experience, take it from good to unforgettable.
Exactly. Think about a time you were truly wowed by something. I bet it wasn't just one thing, it was all these little details working together.
Like the difference between listening to a song versus being at the concert, same music, but the energy, the lights, that connection with everyone there, it just hits different.
And that's what we should all aim for, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's exhibit booths, presentations, even just making our homes feel welcoming, it's about being intentional, thoughtful, always looking for ways to make things better, more engaging for ourselves and the people around us.
Couldn't agree more. Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive for today. But like you said, the conversation doesn't have to stop here.
Not at all.
We'd love to hear from you. How are you transforming spaces into experiences? Your stories, your ideas, your questions. Hit us up on social media.
And hey, maybe your experience will inspire the next deep dive. Who knows?
Keep those creative sparks flying, everybody.